16. Bebe Rexha. Fans of the Brooklyn-born singer Bebe Rexha were having a great time watching her perform in Manhattan one evening in 2023 when a disrespectful audience member ruined the entire show by throwing a cell phone at her face. Rexha immediately turned and fell to the floor and was escorted off stage while covering her injured forehead. The concert was cut short, and witnesses shared photos and footage of this senseless act. Many of them expressed concern over Bebe Rexha's well-being and anger toward the person responsible for her injuries. In an Instagram post, the songstress shared close-ups of her injuries, which included a black eye, swelling, redness, and cuts to her face that required stitches. But she reassured her followers that she was okay. Authorities charged a 27-year-old New Jersey man named Nicholas Malvagna with assault, attempted assault, and aggravated harassment. According to the New York Post, Malvagna claimed during his arraignment that he was trying to get Rexha to take a photo with his phone. He was participating in a TikTok trend that involves throwing one's phone onto a stage for a celebrity to snap a picture with. He allegedly told the cops that he didn't mean to hit the singer, but according to a criminal complaint, he admitted that he was trying to hit Rexha with his phone because he, quote, thought it would be funny. It's unclear which, if any, version of events is true. During an interview with the Post outside the courthouse several weeks later, Malvagna's lawyer, Todd said that the defense had, quote, not received any evidence to support the charges. He further stated that the defense was considering all relevant motions and that he anticipated a resolution short of trial, with all criminal charges being dropped. Malvagna remains free without bail pending the outcome of his case. 15. XXXTentacion. Florida-based rapper and singer-songwriter Josa Dwayne Ricardo Onfroy, better known by his stage name XXXTentacion, gained a cult following as a leader figure in the establishment of the emo rap genre. He became famous after he began releasing his music on SoundCloud in 2013 and was known for his versatility when it came to different musical styles. But the young musician's success wasn't without controversy. Onfroy was no stranger to legal issues and violence, and he appeared to have his fair share of enemies. During a performance in 2017, someone charged him from the side of the stage and sucker punched him, knocking him unconscious and sending him to the floor. In 2018, the rapper was attempting to leave a motorsports store in Broward County when another vehicle blocked him from exiting the parking lot. Two armed men approached Onfroy's BMW and engaged in a brief struggle with him before shooting him multiple times and stealing a Louis Vuitton bag with $50,000 in it. The shooters fled the scene, and Onfroy was pronounced dead at a nearby hospital. Authorities charged Michael Boatwright, Dedrick Williams, and Trayvon Newsome with robbery, first-degree murder, and other charges stemming from the senseless killing. During their trial in early 2023, jurors were required to watch graphic surveillance footage of Onfroy's murder, which has not yet been seen by the public. All three defendants were found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. A fourth suspect, Robert Allen, pleaded guilty to a reduced second-degree murder charge in exchange for testifying against his alleged co-conspirators. He was sentenced to 7 years in prison. 14. Cardi B. Some musicians will act polite even when an audience member does something rude in the middle of the show. Belcalis Marlenis Almanzar Sefus, famously known as Cardi B, is not one of those people. One concertgoer learned this the hard way during the summer of 2023 when they interrupted her rap performance by hurling a beverage onto the stage in Las Vegas. The 30-year-old born and bred New Yorker was in the middle of performing her song, Bodak Yellow, when the unruly female fan threw a white cup containing some sort of liquid in her direction. At first, Cardi B responded with a seemingly shocked facial expression, but it wasn't long before she sprang into action and forcefully chucked her microphone at the offending party. Even after parting ways with her microphone, Cardi had things to say about the discourteous fan. Footage showed the enraged musician shouting angrily while security intervened. The drama was quickly snuffed out and the microphone was returned to Cardi, who resumed the show as if nothing had happened. It turned out to be a frustrating week for Cardi B, who'd thrown her microphone at a nightclub the night before after she was repeatedly cut off during a performance. A TikTok clip of the incident garnered tens of millions of views overnight, with most commenters throwing their support behind the understandably irritated artist. 13. Mayu Tomita. A Japanese pop star and actress's life nearly ended and was forever changed in May of 2016 when an obsessed fan attacked her at a concert venue in Tokyo. 20-year-old Mayu Tomita was heading to the venue to perform when the suspect, 27-year-old Tomohiro Iwazaki, stabbed her nearly 24 times in the head and neck at a nearby transit station. The young woman was left fighting for her life and narrowly survived the vicious assault. According to news reports, Iwazaki was enraged because Tomita returned a gift he'd mailed to her. The singer had reportedly complained to police about Iwazaki in the past due to his creepy comments on her social media posts. But the suspect continued to walk free until he nearly killed her. Iwazaki was arrested at the scene. While being taken into custody, he allegedly admitted to ambushing Tomita in a fit of rage over the returned gift. Following the arrest, the suspect's brother described Iwazaki as having few friends and being, quote, unskilled in expressing his emotions. The defendant also had a known history of stalking female adult performers and models. In a note to the court that was read on the first day of Iwazaki's trial, Tomita wrote that she wanted her attacker to die, and that she wanted him locked up for life if the death penalty wasn't an option. Iwazaki's defense attorneys argued that he acted in the heat of frustration when Tomita ignored him, but that the attack was not premeditated. They also cited Iwazaki's attempts to contact the police after the assault as a mitigating factor. Tomita testified at the trial, but was shielded from view during her time on the stand. In the middle of her testimony, Iwazaki began shouting like a maniac and was removed from the courtroom, which clearly showed that he had not gotten over his unhealthy fixation with the victim. He was sentenced to over 14 years in prison. In the aftermath of the horrific assault, Japanese legislators strengthened the country's anti-stalking laws to include victims of online and social media harassment. And while this symbolized a commendable step forward when it comes to authorities taking stalking seriously, not everyone praised the move. In 2017, Japanese animator-director Yutaka Yamamoto condemned Iwazaki's crime, but faulted Tomita for rejecting the defendant's gifts. He also said that Tomita should have been prepared to defend herself, given her highly visible status as a recognizable public figure. Yamamoto was widely criticized for his critical take on the near tragedy, but instead of apologizing or trying to explain himself in a more tasteful fashion, he stood by his controversial commentary. He claimed that there's a double standard that causes the public to care more about a cute idol than they would about a dirty middle-aged man. 12. George Harrison. Pretty much everyone knows about the murder of Beatles frontman John Lennon, who was mercilessly gunned down outside his New York City apartment building in 1980. But not many people have heard about the attempt on lead guitarist George Harrison's life in 1999. It happened the day before New Year's Eve, when Harrison and his wife Olivia were attacked at their mansion in Oxfordshire, England. The assailant, Michael Abram, entered the couple's home wielding a knife and a sword he had broken off a statue sitting outside, and tackled Harrison, who fought back. Olivia hit the intruder's head with a brass poker, while her husband struggled with Abram, and she soon joined the fight. Harrison was stabbed 10 times and became too weak to continue fighting. But Olivia was relentless in fending off Abram, and she managed to stop him from doing any further damage until the police showed up. Luckily, Harrison survived. Michael Abram suffered from schizophrenia. He had delusions that made him believe a witch had possessed Harrison, and believed that God had tasked him with killing the musician. A court found Abram insane, and he was ordered to an institution indefinitely. He apologized in a letter his attorney read to the court, which went on to say that Abram had received treatment in the past from numerous doctors, who somehow failed to notice that he was suffering from mental illness. At one point in time, he was even hospitalized for a psychotic break. But apparently, the experts who examined him missed all the signs. Leading up to the attack on the Harrisons, a neighbor of Abram's reportedly observed changes in his behavior as he descended further into irrational, drug-fueled delusions. Abram was released just a few years after the attack in 2002, and today he remains free. 11. Christina Grimmie. American singer Christina Grimmie gained an impressive following after she started posting music videos on YouTube in 2010. She experienced her first major brush with success in 2014, when she placed third on the nationwide talent series, The Voice. Her music career was cut short just 2 years later, when she was fatally shot during a concert in Orlando. The 22-year-old had no known connections to the gunman, 27-year-old Kevin James Loibel, who worked part-time at an electronics store and had no history of mental illness. At first glance, he seemed like an average young man, but he reportedly, quote, lived like a hermit, and displayed numerous odd behaviors, including a habit of lining his bedroom windows with tin foil and hanging heavy curtains to block out natural light. According to authorities, Loibel became obsessed with Grimmie in the months leading up to the shooting. He eventually became delusional, convincing himself that he had a realistic chance at being in a relationship with the singer, even though they'd never met. During that same period, he lost 50 pounds, 23 kilograms, and made other drastic changes to his appearance. Loibel drove 2 hours from his home in St. Petersburg to commit the horrific act of violence, which police described as premeditated, even though they failed to provide the public with a motive. After the gunfire rang out, Christina's brother, Marcus Grimmie, sprang into action and tackled Loibel, who accidentally shot himself during the ensuing struggle. He died from his injuries, and police praised Marcus for his quick-thinking response to the attack, which they believe may have prevented the shooter from taking even more lives. Police found 2 handguns, 2 loaded magazines, and a hunting knife in Loibel's possession. To this day, his exact reasons for murdering Christina Grimmie and his plan for what he would have done if he hadn't been tackled remain unclear. 10. Bjork. One of the biggest drawbacks to being rich and famous is the heightened potential to be targeted by stalkers. Icelandic singer-songwriter Bjork experienced this realization firsthand in the 1990s. When a deluded stalker named Ricardo Lopez developed an abnormal obsession with her. Lopez was born in Uruguay and moved to the United States with his family as a child. But the young man failed to achieve the type of normalcy he likely desired. He never had a girlfriend and was a social recluse. And while he made a decent living as an exterminator, he was unsatisfied with his life. His attraction to Bjork began in 1993 at the age of 18, and quickly spiraled into a deluded mission to marry the singer. Lopez spent copious amounts of time and energy learning everything he could about Bjork, writing love letters to her and keeping a diary about her, which eventually became over 800 pages long. In his letters, Lopez described Bjork as his muse and wrote that she made him feel euphoric. He became increasingly consumed by his fixation over time and eventually fell completely out of touch with reality. In his diary, Lopez complained about having low self-esteem due to being overweight, unattractive, and not having a driver's license. He reached his tipping point while living in Hollywood, Florida in 1996, when he learned about Bjork's brief relationship with the singer Goldie and felt betrayed. Wanting to punish the singer, Lopez created a video diary explaining his feelings and plans. In it, he admitted to being obsessed with Bjork and said that he was going to kill her. He initially planned to send her a bomb filled with HIV-infected needles. But when it proved to be unfeasible, he decided to make a package bomb and mailed it to Bjork's home in London. In a final video, Lopez shaved his head, painted his face red and green, and fatally harmed himself. By then, the package bomb was en route to Bjork's address. Thankfully, though, police discovered the video diary and warned Scotland Yard with enough time for them to intercept the explosive parcel and detonate it safely. Bjork responded to the incident by extending her sympathy to her troubled stalker's family and reminding her fans not to get too involved with her personal life. 9. Frederick Nsabimana. Many, if not most, professions require the use of a person's hands and wouldn't be possible to do without the appendages. This couldn't be more true when it comes to art and music, but there are some amazing exceptions to the norm. One such individual is Rwandan painter Frederick Nsabimana, who lost his hands as a teenager in an attack during the horrific genocide that devastated the country in 1998. Frederick was riding to his aunt's house on a public bus when rebels stormed the vehicle and killed the passengers aboard. They cut off the young man's hands and left him for dead along with the other victims. But miraculously, he survived. Instead of resigning to the belief that he couldn't do anything, Frederick became even more determined to make something of himself. He became an accomplished artist and even started a non-profit to help other people with disabilities overcome their obstacles. Frederick eventually moved to Portland, Maine, where he was embraced by the local community for both his talent and his ability to overcome adversity that most people will never have to face. In December 2023, 25 years after the attack, the Portland Press-Herald showcased his accomplishments. He's now 40 years old and was welcomed into the city's art scene, where the only noticeable difference between him and other painters is that he holds a brush with his forearms. 8. Pink. In one of the more unusual attacks on today's list, American pop singer Pink was nearly doused with the cremated ashes of a fan's deceased mother during a concert in Great Britain in 2023. The 43-year-old was performing her hit song, Just Like a Pill, at the British Summertime Festival in London when someone threw a bag of cremains on stage. Pink stopped the concert in its tracks and picked up the bag. She then proceeded to ask the unidentified fan if the bag contained their mom's ashes. Unsure of how to react and what had just happened, the singer said, "I don't know how I feel about this," and placed the bag back onto the stage. She then resumed the concert, most likely to stave off the awkwardness of the situation as quickly as possible. The incident came amid an uptick in members of the public behaving poorly at concerts. In the 2 years leading up to the infamous cremation throwing display, numerous other singers had dealt with having objects thrown at them in mid-performance. Singer Harry Styles was hit with a triple whammy when an airborne skittle hit him in the eye, only for someone to hurl a water bottle at his crotch a handful of concerts later. And not too long after that, another fan threw a chicken nugget at his face. More recently, Styles had been targeted by an alleged stalker who's accused of harassing the singer outside his home in London. According to authorities, 35-year-old Myra Carvalho approached Styles and behaved in a manner that was meant to cause serious alarm or distress. Meanwhile, singer Kelsea Ballerini was struck in the face by a bracelet during a show in Idaho. And Lil Nas X abruptly halted a performance after someone threw an adult toy on stage. Other artists have been hit, grabbed, or full-on attacked by crazed audience members in recent times. There's no clear cause for the disturbing trend, but there are theories. Speaking with Newsweek, entertainment lawyer Frank Salzano speculated that the 24/7 connectivity and close access that fans feel they have to celebrities may play a role in what he describes as the false belief that they have a right to act out as they see fit. Salzano described the behavior as crossing a clear line of decency, and in some instances, rising to criminal behavior. He predicted that these incidents would lead to heightened security and stricter rules at concerts. In other words, crazed fans who lack basic respect are at risk of ruining the fun of concerts, not only for themselves, but for other members of the public who are there to innocently enjoy the show. 7. Dimebag Darrell. Darrell Lance Abbott, who goes by Dimebag Darrell, is best known as the guitarist for the American heavy metal bands Pantera and Damageplan. Many metal fans consider him to be one of the best guitarists of all time, making it all the more tragic that his life was unexpectedly cut short at the hands of an obsessed fan in 2004. The fateful incident occurred on the evening of December 8th during a Damageplan performance at the Alrosa Villa nightclub in Columbus, Ohio. During the band's first song, a deranged spectator named Nathan Gale rushed onto the stage with a 9mm semi-automatic pistol and fired repeatedly at Dimebag Darrell, killing him on stage. He was just 38 years old. The band's head of security attempted to intervene, but was fatally shot during a struggle with the crazed gunman. A fan named Nathan Gray also tried jumping in to help, but was also shot dead, along with a venue employee named Aaron Hulk who attempted to disarm Gale. 3 more individuals were wounded by the time a police officer entered the club and fatally shot Gale in the head in order to prevent any more innocent bloodshed. Thousands of fans attended Darrell's funeral in Arlington, Texas, where he was laid to rest next to his mother in a Kiss-themed casket donated by musician Gene Simmons. 6. Shu Jing. 26-year-old Malaysian singer Shu Jing had just announced her upcoming wedding when she was attacked by a crazed stalker in December 2023. According to news reports, the 44-year-old suspect had been stalking the young woman for 2 years leading up to the vicious knife assault. He had developed a clearly unhealthy obsession with the singer and had repeatedly demanded to meet her when she reluctantly agreed to sit down for lunch with him. But instead of enjoying a meal with the songstress, the deranged superfan started an argument and repeatedly plunged a knife into her vital organs. A horrified witness reported the attack in progress and provided police with a description of the suspect's car. But by the time officers arrived at the scene, the attacker had fled with Shu Jing in his car. Police managed to apprehend the man, who tried harming himself in the process of being taken into custody. During his arrest, he repeatedly insisted that he was Shu Jing's boyfriend. But this wasn't the case at all. Shu had plans to marry her real fiancé, Liu Yang, in 2024. But that unfortunately won't be happening because she bled to death in her attacker's car. Yang was reportedly devastated by the loss of his fiancée, along with her many fans who collectively mourned the singer's death on social media. 5. Selena. Best known by her first name alone, Selena Quintanilla Perez took the Latin music scene by storm during the late 1980s. Known as the Queen of Tejano music, she attracted millions of die-hard fans who would have done anything to get close to her. And ironically, one of the closest people to Selena ended up being responsible for her demise. In 1994, Selena's family hired a woman named Yolanda Saldivar as the singer's agent, fan club manager, and manager of Selena's boutique fashion stores. Saldivar wasn't well liked by her employees at the boutiques, who often complained about her treatment toward the staff. But those reports were reportedly brushed off by Selena, who believed that Saldivar was trustworthy and acting in her best interests at all times. Concerned workers eventually went to Selena's father, Abraham Quintanilla Jr., who took the complaints seriously and warned Selena about Saldivar's worrisome behavior. But he had a history of trust issues, so Selena didn't take her father's warnings at face value. In early 1995, Saldivar's bizarre obsession with Selena had caught the attention of other family members, as well as the singer's stylist. Even journalists from the Dallas Morning News noticed the woman's odd fixation with Selena during an interview. Fans also began to complain in large numbers about paying for fan club memberships and not receiving any of the merchandise that was promised to them. While investigating the fan club complaints, Quintanilla Jr. discovered that Saldivar had embezzled tens of thousands of dollars from Selena's boutiques and fan club by writing forged checks. Quintanilla threatened to involve law enforcement if Saldivar failed to come up with any evidence to disprove the allegations against her, and he banned her from having any contact with Selena. But Selena still believed that Saldivar had her best interests at heart, and the friendship between the two women continued. Over the following weeks, Selena began to realize that Saldivar may not be as trustworthy as she thought. In late March of 1995, Saldivar avoided relinquishing financial documents that Selena's family had demanded from her. In an attempt to delay the handover of the documents, she claimed that she'd been assaulted in Mexico. But Selena had become suspicious enough to go to Saldivar's hotel room in Corpus Christi and demand the documents anyway. And at that point, Saldivar grabbed a gun and shot Selena as she tried running to safety. As Saldivar fled the scene in her pickup truck, Selena clung to life long enough to identify her killer to the hotel clerk. Paramedics and doctors did everything in their power to try to save the 23-year-old singer's life, but she succumbed to her injuries. In the meantime, police spotted Saldivar's pickup truck and attempted to apprehend her. The deranged superfan finally surrendered following a 9.5-hour standoff with the authorities. Tens of thousands of grieving fans attended Selena's funeral, and her untimely death seemed to stop the entire country in its tracks. She's remembered today as one of the most influential Latin music artists of all time. 4. Jazz Cameron. American street artist Jazz Cameron is a well-known fixture of San Francisco's South of Market community, where he features his paintings along a fence lining a busy underpass. His life has been difficult, but he maintains a unique optimism that inspires his artwork. Before he became a painter, Cameron made a living playing his saxophone for tips. His music career ended when he was hit by a taxi, which left him with a traumatic brain injury that interfered with his ability to perform. Even after relearning how to do basic things like walk and read, Cameron was unable to stand for long enough to put on a show. He moved on to painting after discovering his love for it during the months he spent in rehab. However, he continued to hold on to his dream of eventually returning to the music scene. When fellow residents at the single-room occupancy facility where Cameron was living found out about his artwork, they began shaking him down for cash. Management allegedly refused to help, and the harassment got so bad that Cameron left his modest home and started living on the same streets where he displayed his paintings. Being homeless sounds unappealing to most people, but he told the Frisk that he had moved on to a better environment. Life on the streets is a struggle for anyone, and it's impossible to completely avoid problems. During his interview with The Frisk, Cameron described how he lives day by day, scoping out places to sleep where he's least likely to be noticed. In early 2023, he was brutally attacked from behind on a sidewalk. He lost a tooth and suffered facial injuries, which only further delayed his goal of playing the saxophone again. Despite the adversity he faced, Cameron gained recognition for his talent over the years. His artwork caught the eye of a woman named Shelley Constantini, who donated a sleeping bag and helped him get back and forth to medical appointments. Constantini also started a crowdfunding campaign to raise money for Cameron's living expenses and to hopefully get him into a safer living situation. And in just 4 days, the fundraiser garnered over $27,000 in donations. Unfortunately, a lot of the money went toward medical bills, and Cameron faced additional complications with obtaining stable housing, which were described by Constantini as bureaucratic issues. Instead of getting an apartment, he got his passport and made plans to travel the world, something he's always wanted to do, but was only now getting the opportunity to turn into a reality. And while the community was happy to see Cameron broaden his horizons, he remains a beloved fixture of San Francisco's artistic scene. 3. Ava Max. Just days after Bebe Rexha was hospitalized after having a cell phone thrown at her by a concert-goer in June of 2023, singer Ava Max was smacked in the face by an audience member during a concert in Los Angeles. Footage of the attack showed a man storming the stage and striking the young woman in the middle of her performance. As a security guard rushed after him, he was promptly dragged off stage and charged with assault. Ava was momentarily taken aback by the attack, which left her with a scratched eyeball. But she was determined to keep the show going and finished her dance routine before exiting the stage. In a social media post made after the concert, she reassured her fans that the disruptive guest was permanently banned from her shows. She then thanked the rest of her LA fans for their support and for being a great audience. 2. Oleksandr Grekov. As life in Ukraine ground to a standstill amid the ongoing war with Russia, a group of actors and actresses obtained special permission to travel to Dublin, where they performed a Ukrainian version of a play called Translations. They had just completed their final performance in June of 2023, when a group of 3 women and 2 men viciously attacked actor Oleksandr Grekov outside the Abbey Theater. One of the assailants snatched the 23-year-old's cigarette out of his mouth while another grabbed his pack of smokes. Grekov followed the thieves and asked them what they were doing. But instead of explaining themselves, they responded by biting the actor and smashing him in the head with a glass bottle. Speaking with Dublin Live after the assault, a spokeswoman for the acting group described seeing a hole in Grekov's head and a lot of blood. Grekov's injuries were treated at a nearby hospital where doctors closed his head laceration with stitches. He was in good spirits shortly after the attack, but the incident put a damper on the group's experience in Dublin. According to the spokeswoman, the actors and actresses had been treated kindly by the city's residents up until that point, leaving them shocked by the unexpected act of violence. And while it was a bad way to end their tour, they praised emergency responders and other locals for being kind and helpful in the aftermath of the attack. In a statement, the Abbey Theatre condemned the unprovoked assault, which was described by Irish politician Gary Cannon as just another stark reminder of how dangerous Dublin city centre has become at night. Cannon expressed additional horror over the fact that Grekov and his castmates were visiting from a war-torn country and the lasting impression of the city that the actor must have taken home with him. Cannon further pointed out that the assault came amid a disturbing spike in violence in Dublin, and that it served as an example of how dangerous the city is becoming. He called on public officials and agencies to take action and work together to clean up the streets and make Dublin safer for both residents and visitors. It's unclear whether Grekov's attackers were arrested. And now for number 1. But if you want to hear more bizarre and crazy stories, stay tuned after the video for some more content. 1. Jang Shing. 21-year-old Jang Shing became a breakout success in China following the debut of his singing career. But along with fame comes the increased likelihood of being targeted by obsessed stalkers, which he had a first-hand experience with in December 2023. Footage of the incident, which appeared on Chinese social media, showed a group of female fans surrounding Jang inside an unnamed airport and throwing water at him while he stood by helplessly. After dousing the singer with water, the attackers pelted him with their empty cups. Jang handled the encounter with the kind of poise and politeness that his attackers clearly lacked. Instead of reacting, he backed off from the confrontation and then picked the cups that had been thrown at him up off the floor. In a statement, Jang's representative condemned the reprehensible behavior displayed by the suspects and clarified that the incident had been reported to the police. The singer also made it clear that he was cooperating with law enforcement as an investigation into the bizarre attack unfolded. Joseline Hernandez. American TV personality, actress, and singer Joseline Hernandez rose to fame on VH1's reality series Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. Nicknamed the Puerto Rican Princess, she's known for her outspoken and sometimes controversial personality. In 2023, the 36-year-old was arrested for getting into a backstage fight with fellow reality star Big Lex at an arena in Sunrise, Florida. It's unclear what started the brawl, but cell phone footage showed Hernandez putting Big Lex in a headlock and beating her before 2 men pulled them away from each other. Even after the women were separated, Hernandez allegedly continued throwing punches and yelling at random people. The chaos continued as someone walked by and threw a drink at Hernandez, and was then chased out of the building. Hernandez was initially arrested on 4 charges, including trespassing and battery. She was later charged with 2 additional felony counts of battery on a law enforcement officer. But since this happened so recently, we'll have to wait and see how things turn out. 7. Michael Baltimore. Several scenes for Season 4 of 90 Day Fiancé Happily Ever After were filmed at GQ Barbershop in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, where one of the show's stars worked. One of the barbers, Michael Baltimore, appeared on the show several times throughout the season. But in 2022, Baltimore was added to the United States Marshal's Most Wanted list for murder. He allegedly opened fire on his boss, Kendall Jerome Cook, inside the barbershop in May of 2021. Cook was killed, and another man was seriously injured as a result, and that he should be considered armed and dangerous. Multiple agencies offered rewards for information, totaling at least $37,000, including the FBI, Crime Stoppers, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Then, a few months after appearing on the U.S. Marshal's Most Wanted list, Baltimore's case was escalated to the top 15 most wanted. Baltimore remained on the run for 7 months before finally being captured in Broward County, Florida in early 2023. According to reports, the 44-year-old fled from a bar after getting into a fight involving a knife and threats to shoot someone. He was pulled over by the police a short while later. Cops found 2.3 grams of fentanyl, 200 grams of marijuana, 818 ecstasy pills, a loaded gun, and a fake ID in Baltimore's possession. The fugitive also allegedly gave police a fake name, but his identity was confirmed through his fingerprints. Baltimore faces a multitude of state and federal charges, and in Florida, he stands accused of battery, possession of fentanyl, trafficking ecstasy, possession of marijuana with intent to sell, possession of a weapon by a felon, and display of a firearm. But that's not all. He's also facing charges of providing false identification to a law enforcement official, and 3 counts of use of false information to obtain a driver's license. He also faces federal charges of assault, homicide, and parole violation. For now, though, his cases appear to be ongoing. 6. Ryan Jenkins. In 2009, Canadian entrepreneur Ryan Jenkins starred in the VH1 reality show Megan Wants a Millionaire, and later that year, he went on to film another series, I Love Money 3. But the show never aired because he was suspected of murdering his ex-wife, bikini model Jasmine Fiore, before the season's scheduled debut. Fiore was found strangled and stuffed in a suitcase that had been thrown into a dumpster in an alleyway in Buena Park, California. Her body was mutilated beyond recognition, and her teeth and fingers had been removed to prevent identification. However, she was ultimately identified using the serial numbers on her breast implants. Fiore was last seen at a San Diego nightclub with Jenkins, who returned to the couple's hotel room alone. But by the time an arrest warrant was issued for Jenkins, he'd gone on the run. Believing he'd fled to Canada, authorities launched an international manhunt. But they failed to catch up with him in time to apprehend him and bring him to justice. And he was found dead a few days later inside a hotel room in British Columbia. A note found on Jenkins' laptop stated that he believed Fiore had been cheating on him, but contained no mention of her murder. He expressed feelings of both deep love and severe frustration toward her, making it clear that their relationship was one of extremes. The hotel owner recalled seeing Jenkins arrive with a mysterious blonde woman who came into the office and paid for his room with cash. She was later identified as Jenkins' younger half-sister, Elena Jenkins. She had stubbornly clung to the belief that her brother was innocent despite the abundance of evidence against him, and even though there were no other suspects in the case. In a Good Morning America interview, she said that she'd continue to believe in Jenkins' innocence until his guilt was proven without a doubt. Jenkins had a criminal conviction for assaulting his former girlfriend 2 years earlier. News of the previous case sparked widespread controversy over the vetting procedures, or lack thereof, in the reality TV industry. Some people called for more thorough vetting, but because the case had nothing to do with the shows Jankin appeared on, experts speculated that very little, if anything, would change. 5. Todd and Julie Chrisley. Real estate tycoon Todd Chrisley and his family made their TV debut in 2014 with their reality series Chrisley Knows Best. The show documented the everyday lives of Chrisley, his wife Julie, their children, and other family members. Throughout the series' 10 seasons, viewers received a glimpse of what it was like to live an ultra-lavish lifestyle that most people only ever dream of as the cameras follow the Chrisleys' day-to-day dealings at their properties in Georgia. Known for his strong personality and witty remarks, Chrisley's outspoken personality went hand in hand with the family's over-the-top lifestyle. The series took a lighthearted approach that was punctuated with occasional moments of drama, and it attracted a large viewer base. But the Chrisleys' seemingly picture-perfect existence was shattered in 2019, though, when Todd and Julie were accused of committing a slew of financial crimes. The couple took measures to hide the income they were making from the show in an effort to avoid paying taxes on it. The pair also allegedly used false documents to obtain millions of dollars worth of fraudulent loans, which they used to upkeep their exorbitant lifestyle. In 2022, the Chrisleys were convicted of conspiracy to defraud banks and several tax crimes, including conspiracy to defraud the IRS. Todd Chrisley was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release, and Julie received a 7-year sentence, followed by 3 years of supervised release. Needless to say, their reality show was canceled, and their lives are a lot less glamorous than they used to be. The family's former accountant, Peter Tarantino, was sentenced to 3 years behind bars, plus 3 years of supervision for his role in the crimes. 4. Amanda Wilhelm. At first glance, Amanda Wilhelm seems harmless, or perhaps even delicate. The petite brunette from Louisiana became a reality star in 2023 when she starred in Season 6 of the 90 Day Fiancé spin-off Before the 90 Days. Several months after losing her husband to a sudden terminal cancer diagnosis, the young widow traveled to Romania to meet her online boyfriend, Razvan Ciocoi, in person for the first time. In the show, Amanda and Razvan are an undeniably dysfunctional couple who can't seem to figure out whether or not they want to be together. They argue often, and sometimes these disagreements come with cringe-worthy emotional outbursts. Despite this, though, it's still hard to picture Amanda fully flying off the handle. But it allegedly happened once, and it landed her in some pretty serious legal trouble. In 2010, when she was 19 years old, Amanda was accused of brutally attacking a young woman named Kayla Patton on the victim's property. According to a police report, Amanda wrestled Kayla to the ground and then beat her up while a friend held her in place. Amanda reportedly accused Kayla of attacking her first and claimed that she'd only acted in self-defense after seeing Kayla walking toward her with a bat in her hand. But the police didn't buy it, and Amanda was charged with battery. She received a deferred judgment, which meant that she'd avoid any criminal convictions as long as she cooperated with certain rules that were set forth by the court. In Amanda's case, the requirements included attending anger management, performing community service, and likely staying out of any further legal trouble until her case was officially cleared. While the incident happened years before Amanda appeared on national TV, the widespread news headlines about the case likely served as a sobering reminder that in the days of the internet, there's no such thing as a person fully escaping their past. 3. Richard Morales Jr. In addition to making music, Florida rapper Richard Morales Jr., better known as Gunplay, starred in the VH1 reality series Love and Hip Hop Miami. While playing Call of Duty at his home one night in August 2023, his wife, Vonshay Taylor Morales, asked him to quiet down his yelling because he was scaring their baby. But instead of complying with her request, the 44-year-old allegedly threw a tantrum while Vonshay tried to pack a bag and get away from the chaos. In a since-deleted social media post, Vonshay said that her husband has a drinking problem and that he'd recently fallen off the wagon. She claimed that Gunplay was intoxicated and accused him of throwing glass cups and liquor bottles at her. According to reports, the rapper then picked up an AK-47, pressed it against Vanche's chest, and threatened her with it. So, as soon as she got the chance, Vanche took the rifle and hid it. She claimed that Morales tried to stop her from leaving the home and said that she planned to file for divorce. Morales faces multiple charges, including aggravated battery with a deadly weapon and false imprisonment. He was released on house arrest pending the outcome of his case, but he's been banned from having any contact with his wife and child. 2. Sig Hansen. Since 2005, Norwegian-American crab fisherman Sig Hansen has appeared on the Discovery Channel series Deadliest Catch as the captain of the Northwestern. Like many of the show's stars, he has a reputation for being a stereotypical fisherman. Rough around the edges, blunt, and intimidating at times, but also an extremely hard worker and devoted family man. In 2017, Hansen lived up to the stereotype in a much different way than usual, when he was accused of drunkenly assaulting a Seattle Uber driver during an argument about fare payment. Sig and his family were on their way home after a night out celebrating Norway's Independence Day when the ride was cancelled. The driver, Wahid K. Lawal, told the passengers to submit another ride request through the Uber app, and in keeping with Uber policy, he refused to accept cash for the remainder of the trip. Hansen and his son-in-law, Clark Peterson, who works as a deckhand on the Northwestern, allegedly became outraged and began screaming and swearing at Lawal. And according to reports, Hansen threatened to beat Lawal up, spat in his face, and kicked and dented the driver's car, causing an estimated $1,800 worth of damage. Then, shortly after the family arrived home, the police paid a visit and arrested Hansen, who they described as intoxicated and combative. The fisherman apologized for his behavior on Twitter, stating that he felt embarrassed. He also acknowledged the fact that he owed a lot of apologies to people, starting with Lawal. He admitted that he had no excuse for his actions and said that he hoped he'd get a chance to apologize to Lawal in person. Hansen pleaded guilty to a reduced misdemeanor assault charge and was spared from jail time, but was required to undergo an alcohol abuse program and stay out of legal trouble for a year. Lawal sued Hansen and Peterson for lost earnings, property damage, emotional distress, and other damages. And in the lawsuit, Lawal described feeling humiliated and scared for his life. After the incident, he was so overwhelmed by depression, fear, and shame that he lost sleep and struggled to keep up with his job, studies, and other responsibilities. It's not clear exactly what happened behind the scenes, but in the end, the case was settled for an undisclosed sum. 1. Jeffrey Paschel. Hailing from Knox County, Tennessee, single father of 2, Jeffrey Paschel made his TV debut in 2020 during Season 4 of the 90 Day Fiancé spin-off Before the 90 Days. The show featured his new relationship with a Russian woman named Varya Malina. Things between the pair got off to an awkward start, but by the end of the season, they were engaged. Jeffrey and Varya's relationship survived distance when Paschel faced criminal charges for assaulting his ex-fiancée, Kristen Wilson, back in 2019. According to authorities, Jeffrey was accused by grabbing Wilson by the neck and slamming her head against the wall repeatedly before throwing her to the ground and dragging her. Prosecutors accused Paschel of taking Wilson's cell phone and refusing to let her leave the house. Wilson finally escaped and fled to a neighbor for help after Jeffrey fell asleep. And in a report, responding officers noted that Wilson had multiple visible injuries, including cuts and abrasions on her forehead, mouth, back, and arms. She also suffered a concussion. Paschel claimed that his ex's injuries were self-inflicted, but he failed to sway a jury in his favor. As a result, he was convicted of aggravated kidnapping, domestic assault, and interference with emergency calls. And in the end, the judge sentenced him to 18 years in prison. Jeffrey appealed the case, hoping to win a shot at another trial, but was denied. Varya stood by Jeffrey's side all throughout his trial, and continues to do so today, even though he won't see freedom again until 2038. In fact, she remains devoted to Jeffrey even after reportedly being banned from visiting him in prison due to her refusal to pass through the X-ray machine. Would you rather be a world-famous artist who commits a minor crime and is remembered for it, or a little-known artist who leads a crime-free life but never gains widespread recognition? Let us know in the comments below. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.